On September 30th, 2024, the two largest satellite internet companies in the United States, DirecTV and Dish, agreed to merge. Together, the combined company would have roughly 20 million subscribers, making it the largest pay TV operator in the country. This isn't the first time the two companies have attempted a merger. All the way back in 2002, Dish's parent company, EchoStar, tried to acquire DirecTV. This deal was blocked by the FCC, which said the merger would be anti-competitive and bad for consumers. A lot has changed over the past 20 years. With the rise of streaming services like Netflix, millions of Americans have canceled their expensive satellite TV subscriptions. Both DirecTV and Dish are slowly dying as they hemorrhage subscribers. Faced with the existential threat posed by streaming services, the companies now argue that merging is their best chance for survival, leveraging their combined scale to stay competitive in a rapidly changing industry. In this video, we'll take a deep dive into the multi-billion-dollar satellite television industry, why it's under so much pressure, and what the planned merger of DirecTV and Dish could mean for the industry going forward. This video is brought to you by Differentiated Analytics, a website that we created which provides premium short-selling research. We conduct extensive research to identify companies which we believe to be either fraudulent, overvalued, or operating unviable business models. We then write professional-grade short-selling reports explaining our reasoning as to why we're bearish on the stocks. We've been publishing these short reports since January of this year. So far, we've published 15 reports, of which 11 of the stocks have declined in value since then. On average, our short picks have massively underperformed the S&P 500. If you're interested in short-selling stocks, make sure to check out Differentiated Analytics, link in the description below. That's differentiatedanalytics.com. And now back to the video. Prior to the 1970s, the only way to get TV service was through over-the-air broadcast. You needed to have antennas either installed on your roof or bunny ear antennas on your TV. The television companies built massive broadcast towers, which transmitted radio waves directly to households. This method had a few technical limitations. The radio bandwidth is limited, so broadcast TV can only support a limited number of channels. The quality of the broadcast can be unreliable, especially if you live far away from the nearest tower. The broadcast towers are massive and only cover limited geographical areas. It is not economically feasible to build broadcast towers in rural areas with low population densities. Thus, many rural communities lacked any access to television. One solution to this problem was cable. Instead of receiving television broadcast directly to your home, the broadcasts are received at a massive centralized antenna. Each home is connected to the central antenna via a coaxial cable, which is usually installed underground. This provided for far greater reliability compared to traditional over-the-air television. However, this solution was also not perfect. Just like it's not practical to have a broadcast station everywhere, it's also not practical to connect every single home with a coaxial cable. In rural communities, it's often not worth the cost for cable companies to install cable, as the distance in between each house is too far. In the 1970s, a new solution to democratize television emerged, and it came from outer space. By this point, satellite technology had advanced to the point where it was now feasible to launch large-scale satellite television service. With satellites operating from space, they can obviously cover a far greater range than terrestrial broadcast towers. Satellite signals can reach remote areas that do not have access to broadband or cable television. The television signals are transmitted up to a satellite and then back down to end consumers. In the beginning, you needed to install a massive satellite dish into your backyard, which could cost many thousands of dollars. Over the years, technology has advanced and satellite dishes are now much smaller. Today, you can get a dish installed on your roof for just a couple $100s. By the early 2000s, DirecTV and Dish had established themselves as the two largest satellite TV providers in the United States. Today, the four largest pay TV distributors in the United States are Spectrum, Xfinity, DirecTV, and Dish. Spectrum and Xfinity are the largest, each having 13 million television subscribers. DirecTV has 11 million subscribers. Dish has 8 million subscribers, including Sling TV, which they own. Spectrum and Xfinity, both cable TV providers, deliver television via coaxial cables, which can also transmit broadband internet and wired telephone services. This allows them to offer bundled packages of TV, internet, and landline phone services, often at a discounted rate for customers who subscribe to multiple services. Most homes in densely populated areas have access to cable television. DirecTV and Dish distribute television via satellites. They tend to be more popular in rural areas, where people might not have access to cable. While cable and satellite TV providers use different technologies, their business models are very similar. They pay media companies such as Disney, Warner Brothers, Fox, etc. for the rights to distribute their content. These payments are called carriage fees. They bundle all this content together and offer customers access to dozens or even hundreds of channels covering everything from live news to sitcoms. The carriage agreements are typically structured as a fee per subscriber. Hypothetically, DirecTV may agree to pay Disney $10 per subscriber per month in exchange for access to all Disney-owned channels. Not all television channels are created equal. In general, live news and sports channels command the highest carriage fees. If you're a football fan, you need to be able to watch the NFL games. This is a non-negotiable. For a pay TV bundle to be attractive, it must have live news and sports. On the other hand, channels like the Food Network or Animal Planet might be nice to have, but they're hardly deal breakers for most people. They are thus not as important to the bundle. Sports media companies know this. Live sports channels like ESPN charge disproportionately high carriage fees. Before the rise of streaming, pay TV was the only way for people to watch video entertainment at home. Until relatively recently, the majority of US households had a pay TV subscription. Of course, this all started to change throughout the 2010s with the rise of streaming services like Netflix. As high-speed internet became more widespread, it became possible for people to stream video at high resolution with minimal buffering. Interestingly, cable TV providers like Xfinity and Spectrum, who also supply broadband internet, played a key role in this transition. As they upgraded their infrastructure to support faster internet speeds, they inadvertently contributed to the decline of their own pay TV businesses, as customers increasingly opted for streaming services instead of traditional television. The ad-supported version of Netflix costs less than $10 per month, while pay TV packages cost upwards of $100. And for a lot of people, Netflix actually provides a superior viewing experience because it's on demand. You don't have to worry about missing your favorite show or wrangling with a DVR. If you add up the top 5 TV providers in the United States, they had 70 million subscribers in 2018. This represented 55% of American households. Over the past 6 years, they have lost significant market share to streamers. As of June of 2024, their aggregate subscriber count has fallen to 34 million, representing just 27% of US households. Even as pay TV slowly dies, the cable providers Spectrum and Xfinity will probably be fine. They will certainly see their revenue fall as customers cut the cord, but today, the majority of their revenue comes from internet services, which remains essential. Even if their pay TV business were to disappear entirely, their internet service businesses would be enough for them to continue as going concerns. For DirecTV and Dish, it's a different story. While Dish offers some satellite internet services, they only operate 11 satellites, so their internet capacity is very limited. For both Dish and DirecTV, the vast majority of their revenue comes from pay TV. Thus, the decline of pay TV poses an existential risk to their survival. While the pay TV industry has declined substantially in recent years, it's important to note that over a quarter of US households still subscribe to either cable or satellite television. Given the superior value proposition of streaming, why does anyone continue to pay for traditional TV? According to a recent survey, 40% of pay TV subscribers do so primarily to watch live sports, entertainment events, or news, content that is often unavailable on streaming platforms. Another 10% cite slow home internet speeds as a reason they stick with pay TV, though this figure is shrinking as high-speed internet becomes more widely available. We can see from these survey results that the main reason people still subscribe to pay TV is for live sports and news programming. Sports media and news companies are well aware of this and use this to their full advantage. As we discussed earlier, these channels charge carriage fees to pay TV providers based on the number of subscribers. As the subscriber base shrinks, the total carriage fees decrease. In an attempt to maintain their revenue, live news and sports channels have increased the fee per subscriber. In response, pay TV providers have raised the price of the bundle. In 2018, the average cost of a pay TV bundle was around $85. Today, that price has risen to over $100. While some die-hard sports fans and news junkies are willing to pay these higher prices, the growing cost disparity makes cheaper streaming services increasingly appealing. This in turn drives more consumers to cancel their pay TV subscriptions, creating a vicious cycle where declining subscriber numbers leads to higher carriage fees and higher prices for those who remain. This cycle of price increases cannot last forever. Eventually, it'll become more cost-effective for consumers to subscribe to sports-focused streaming services like Fubo TV. The senior leadership of both Dish and DirecTV can see the writing on the wall. On the current trajectory, both companies will slowly die. That's why they're trying to shake things up by merging together. So what exactly is the rationale for this merger? What do they hope to achieve? To understand this, we need to understand a little bit about the history of the two companies. We'll start off with DirecTV. They used to be owned by the telecom giant AT&T. At the time, AT&T also owned Warner Media. They tried to do various cross-promotions and bundling of DirecTV and their wireless phone service. These cross-promotions yielded underwhelming results. Most analysts viewed AT&T's acquisition of DirecTV as a mistake. In 2021, they spun off DirecTV as an independent company and sold a minority stake to a private equity firm called TPG. It did not appear that TPG had any grand plans for DirecTV. They acquired their stake at a very low valuation. They probably planned to let the business die slowly and extract whatever profits they can in the meantime. Dish has a significantly more complicated history. Dish was founded all the way back in the 1990s by Charlie Ergen and his satellite company EchoStar. Dish was spun off as an independent company in 2007, only to re-merge with EchoStar in 2023. Even when they were technically separate companies, Dish and EchoStar were both controlled by Charlie Ergen and always worked closely with each other. So it's simpler to just view them as one entity for now. To his credit, Ergen has foreseen the demise of satellite television for quite some time, so he's tried to diversify into the mobile wireless business. In 2020, Dish acquired the wireless service provider Boost Mobile. Since Dish did not own its own cell phone towers, they operated Boost Mobile as a mobile virtual network operator. This means they leased network access from major carriers like AT&T and T-Mobile, paying for the right to use their cell phone towers. There are a couple of major disadvantages to this approach. Firstly, AT&T and T-Mobile give priority to their own customers. During times of high network usage, Boost Mobile customers will be the first to experience degraded service. Because of this inferior service, mobile virtual network operators like Boost are obliged to offer cheaper prices to entice customers. Due to low revenue per customer and the high fees it needs to pay to AT&T and T-Mobile, Boost Mobile has long struggled with profitability. After acquiring Boost Mobile, Dish had grand ambitions to create their own nationwide 5G infrastructure. This way, Boost Mobile could be a proper wireless carrier and no longer need to piggyback off AT&T or T-Mobile. Building a nationwide 5G network from scratch is not cheap. Before you can even start building cell phone towers, you need to purchase the rights to wireless spectrum. Wireless signals are transmitted at various frequencies on the electromagnetic spectrum. To prevent different carriers from interfering with each other's signals, the FCC auctions off the rights to use various portions of the spectrum. Over the years, Dish has spent $30 billion to acquire wireless spectrum rights. They intend to use this to build out the 5G network for Boost Mobile. To fund their spectrum investments, Dish borrowed money, and a lot of it. They currently have $23 billion of debt, which accrues interest at a rate of $1 billion per year. The original idea was to use the profits from the satellite TV business to fund the interest expense. However, Dish's revenue has deteriorated faster than expected. In 2023, Dish's television business generated $11.6 billion of revenue, a 7.5% decline from the prior year. The segment generated $2.7 billion of operating profit. The retail wireless segment, which consists primarily of Boost Mobile, incurred an operating loss of more than $600 million. The hope is that once they finish building their 5G infrastructure, Boost will become profitable. But for now, it's losing money. Even having already bought the spectrum rights, Dish still needs to spend billions of dollars to build the cell phone towers and other related infrastructure. In 2023, they spent almost $2 billion deploying 5G infrastructure. Finally, they have a small satellite internet business which is losing money. Of all their segments, pay TV is the only one that's profitable. And now, the profits from pay TV are not enough to cover the cost of the 5G deployment. In 2023, Dish reported a consolidated operating loss of almost $300 million. Dish's financial situation is clearly not sustainable. They still need billions of dollars of additional capital to finish building their 5G network. Given their already heavy debt load, lenders would balk at lending them any more money. The company was running out of options. So in September of 2024, Dish's parent company EchoStar agreed to sell its satellite television business to DirecTV. In exchange, DirecTV agreed to take on $9.75 billion of EchoStar's debt. EchoStar hopes that this debt reduction will give them the financial flexibility to complete the build-out of their 5G network for Boost Mobile. Following the deal, DirecTV will be the only major satellite television provider in the US, with almost 20 million subscribers. Here's a short clip of DirecTV CEO Bill Morrow explaining how the combined company can benefit from increased scale.
But equally as important, Caroline, is that the combined entity with just under 20 million subscribers will give us the very needed influence on the industry to work with the programmers to say the days of the past of 250 channels are gone.
Yeah.
Consumers don't want to pay for content that they are never going to watch. And the programmers are still kind of tied to those old carriage agreements. This influence is going to change that. It is in the interest of the consumers. We think it's in the interest of the programmers in the long run, and of course to our company as well.
One of the reasons pay TV is so expensive is because they offer so many channels. Part of this is due to the negotiating leverage of the media companies. Hypothetically, let's suppose that Paramount has 15 different channels. They go to DirecTV with an all-or-nothing deal. If you want any of our channels, you need to buy all of them and pay commensurately high carriage fees. Because of this, the pay TV operators are obliged to offer massive bundles with hundreds of channels. They pass this cost on to the consumer. That's why pay TV bundles can easily cost over $100 per month. If DirecTV and Dish merge, the combined entity will have much greater clout than each of them had individually. This may allow them to strong-arm the media companies into offering smaller bundles at cheaper prices. Skinnier and cheaper bundles will be more attractive to consumers, which will help slow down subscriber losses. While this sounds good on paper, there's one major obstacle. The current FTC has been extremely aggressive in blocking mergers which it believes to be anti-competitive. The merger between DirecTV and Dish would effectively create a satellite TV monopoly. Remember, all the way back in 2002, the FCC blocked what was effectively this same merger. So why would this time be any different? The two companies argue that with the rise of Netflix and other streaming services, consumers now have more options than they ever had in the past. Thus, the combination of the two largest satellite TV companies isn't so big of a deal. While this is true to some extent, we also need to keep in mind that millions of Americans still live in rural areas without access to high-speed internet. They rely on satellite television as their only source of high-quality video entertainment. The combined company would have the ability to raise prices for these communities that have no other options. I would frankly be shocked if the government doesn't try to block this deal. If I had to guess, the chances of this deal closing is less than 50%. If the deal doesn't happen, both companies will continue their terminal decline. Dish will probably be the first to go bankrupt, given its massive debt load. Alright guys, that wraps it up for this video. What do you think about satellite television? Let us know in the comments section below. As always, thank you so much for watching and we'll see you in the next one. Wall Street Millennial, signing out.